Story 1. I worked at Alta Sciences for a while, a preclinical testing facility. They tested the safe doses of meds before human trials on rats, mice, dogs, etc. They like to say they do the best for the animals as the necessary evil sort of situation, but the place is abysmal. Painting over mold and literal crap. Mold in ceilings, never fixing any machines, and just expecting people to make it work. Hiding bad procedures from visitors, not firing people who straight up kick the animals because they are leads. Taking away perks because higher-ups made stupid decisions and we all paid for it. IACUC, FDA, and USDA are all basically useless as well, since we got enough heads up to scramble a spit shine on the place. The stuff I reported, only one change happened, and that was cleaning the chemical barrel room. Also, trying to report these things is a pain in the butt on top of it. Any actual fixes are the most half-assed fixes made by someone who is not qualified in the slightest, so it's just going to break again. There are people who genuinely want to do good by the animals and help push research to help people, but corporate greed combined with burnout makes for a bad time. Also, the pay sucks. Story 2. I worked at a Marriott for several years. I learned the following. Bedbugs happen more often than you would think. There's not much we can do about it either. A hotel with frequent international travelers is bound to end up with someone who brought something with them in their luggage every now and then. All we can do is quarantine and clean the room when the problem is discovered. Those sheets are probably not as clean as you think. People in the hallway can hear you doing it in your room, or that you watch adult videos if you don't wear headphones. Always flip the bolt lock on your door. People make mistakes in booking and blocking rooms. I can't count how many times a room has been double booked, which leads to very awkward and angry interactions. If you had something bad happen to you, or are angry at something you booked not working out, make a bit of a fuss. You can usually get free food or drinks or a free night stay. Don't be a D about it though, because accidents happen, and it's often not the fault of the person you'll be interacting with. But hotels bend over backwards in order to not get a bad review. At the hotel I worked at, every review lower than a 9 or 10 was considered a 0. So get your money's worth. Lastly, we can smell the smoke and weed coming from your room. We can also smell it when you leave. We might not be able to do anything about it when it happens, but you will absolutely be charged for the 1 to 2 extra nights that the room is unavailable while we clean the stench out. Please stop smoking in the rooms. You're the only one who can't smell it. Everyone else can. We know you're lying. Stop being childish. Story 3. Most residential HVAC contractors have absolutely no idea what they're doing, and oftentimes their recommendations are complete crap. I do a lot of residential mechanical design, and on just about every project, I'm forced to defend my drawings because the contractor has ideas on how to make it better. Most of the time, they are just trying to make it cheaper. Often, they just don't understand how things work. Me. You ignored the drawings and installed an oversized system. Contractor. The way I see it, they got an extra half-ton of cooling for free. Me. Not only is that against code, but that can also promote mold growth in the house. Contractor. We'll just agree to disagree. Me. There's no disagreeing with any of that. Contractor. We need a bigger fan. There's not enough airflow. Me. Your own balance report shows there's enough airflow. You just need to properly balance it. Contractor. There's just not enough airflow. Me. So is your balance report wrong? Contractor. Of course not. Me. Then just balance the air. A new fan is a waste of money. Tell you what, you give me your calculations that show we need more air and that your proposed fan will produce that much air, and I'll look over them. Contractor. I don't have calculations. I'm not an engineer. Me. Well, I am the engineer, and I'm telling you a new fan is a waste of money. Fast forward to a new fan being installed and then finding out it didn't do any better. Story 4. People cleaning their underwear in kettles is a huge problem in hotels. We find so many forgotten underpants in the kettles that I can't even guess how many we didn't catch. Don't use them. If you want a nicer room in a hotel, book it under professor or doctor with your name. That makes you way more likely to be bumped up. When you're traveling privately, take a card from any hotel testing company with you and give it to the reception when you arrive to enter as the address for your bill. Staff will be extra nice to you. If you want to steal towels from your hotel, don't steal them on the day you're leaving. Just put one in your suitcase day after day, and throw the remaining towels on a stack on the floor. Housekeeping will likely not count them because they don't have the time, and they put a full amount of new towels in your room. As long as a full set is there when you're leaving, you'll be fine. We keep records about who was nice and who wasn't in our system. If you were nice, you're more likely to be bumped up. Story 5. The education system in America is effed because of contracted employees. I work for an organization called Reliant. They own 4 different staffing companies in special education. We place special education teachers, speech pathologists, school psychologists, paraprofessionals, and such. We pay our employees 60% of what we charge the schools. On an hourly basis, it's a bit more than what a government employee could make, and we keep that margin razor thin. Our executives act like we're doing good work, but we are pulling hundreds of millions of dollars out of educators' pockets and out of schools. We pay lobbying firms to keep it this way, as special ed is federally funded. We aren't the only firm that does this, but our organization is specifically bad because we have 4 sister companies that work together to drive prices up. Our parent company doesn't care where our companies make the money, so we constantly bid up work against our own. Story 6. Engagement ring business here. Oh, so many. Most natural diamonds have been in like 2 to 3 rings before they end up in yours. Rings are made with more fragile designs than they used to be, because after you get tired of breaking or needing repairs all the time, you will buy a new ring, thus giving us more money. This is why the trends nowadays lean towards dainty and minimalistic with a massive stone, because it's a ticking time bomb. This is also why a lot of jewelry stores won't stop you from getting stones that are too soft for daily wear. Looking at you, Opal. The largest diamond distributor is Walmart. Diamonds that jewelry suppliers discard for being ugly end up on James Allen and Brilliant Earth. Platinum isn't necessarily a better metal than gold. It actually has just as many, but very different flaws. We sell it like it's better because it's so much more expensive. It's against the law for a jewelry store to say something is made of diamonds and gold if it's not. But these laws do not apply to Etsy sellers. The average woman's ring size is a 6. So we sell rings at 6.5 to 7, so we can say, "Oh wow, you're smaller than average, teehee." The people who beat up their rings the most are nurses, teachers, and office workers. Story 7. I recently bought Bose headphones for $300 using most of my tax refund. It was a splurge. The right one didn't hold a charge past 20%, so I got on a chat with a support specialist and answered the dumb, obvious questions until he finally said he'd file a replacement ticket. I did not receive the email with the return label and shipping info, so I called a few days later and spoke to another person going through the entire process again. Still didn't get an email, even after confirming it was correct twice with the person on the phone. Yesterday, I got on a chat again and posted the original convo I had with the first person into this new chat window, and said, "I'm pretty confident you all are stalling in the hopes that I let this go, but you're a fool if you think I'm going to eat a faulty $300 product." He said, "Haha, fair enough," and immediately sent the email. More and more these days, customer service is designed to inconvenience you until you give up. Story 8. I work in shipping, and there are absolutely no issues in the industry at all. I have compiled a list of things that don't happen anywhere. No illegal pollution, no illegal emissions, no corruption, bribery, or the likes from any port or government officials, pilots, agents, or even Swiss boatmen. No companies are willing to disregard all the rules regarding health and safety and pollution in the interests of making or saving money. Definitely no racism, bigotry, nepotism, or any form of discrimination. No incompetent pieces of crap with fake certificates of competence, and sea service who are willing to do whatever any piece of crap company asks to save money irrespective of international regs. All in all, it's great that oil and gas majors have abandoned direct management of ships and allow the honest, sincere, and passionate high-quality third-party management companies to do it all at lower costs while maintaining equally high standards. Story 9. I know a dirty big secret. The company I used to work for owns a food production processing plant in Bridgeton, Missouri. It's right near St. Louis. They're a private label product for some of the biggest food names in the U.S. so you wouldn't know who they are necessarily. But I can tell you that most of us have their products in our kitchens right now. If you know anything about Bridgeton, it's that it's a community that was featured in HBO's Atomic Homefront documentary. Why is this bad? They are making food products you and your family buy in a plant that is less than a mile from the West Lake Bridgeton landfill, which has had a subsurface fire burning for years, and which is inching closer and closer to an adjacent radioactive waste supersite, which is where remnants of the Manhattan Project were dumped and buried. People in nearby Coldwater Creek have been dying of cancer and other illnesses at alarming rates for decades, as the groundwater is no doubt contaminated. And I can't tell you how many other manufacturers are in that industrial area. Too many to fathom. I'm not a conspiracy theory type of person, but I know we're all being poisoned on a daily basis, from companies like this and others like DuPont. Story 10. Even though politicians appear to be on opposite teams, they are usually on the same team when it comes to money. Like parasites in nature, they work together to create profitable problems. Drugs, homelessness, terrorism, immigration, public health, natural disasters, infrastructure, fairness, and inflation, for example. They then cause problems to exacerbate the problem, insert themselves as the solution by making promises aimed at the increasing pain of those problems. Instead of fixing the problems, they make them 10 times worse, giving justification for further entrenching themselves, and as a means to ask for more money. Bigger problems are much more profitable. They use the entire process to invest using insider trading and corrupt acquisitions processes, and make no-bid deals for friends that are paid back through friends, and family or jobs boards of directors positions, etc. They then repeat the process indefinitely. They are looting the country. So whatever bill they pass, you can count on it doing the opposite. They want us divided so we don't notice. The lines they want us divided over currently are racial and ethnic strife, religious differences, class inequality, sex and identity, political divergence and extremism on all sides, historical wrongs, social policy, total control of media narratives of all sides, financial battles, cultural battles, manipulating the legal framework and lawfare to screw everyone who can't afford a lawyer, environmental and resource disputes, managing public health concerns, overseeing educational directives. The dumber you are, the easier you are to control. They want total control, and when they have it, the only crime will be to reveal their lack of legitimacy. Story 11. If you've had a credit card or student loan or mortgage for more than a couple of years, the odds that the current lender or servicer still has copies of your original paperwork or any idea how your balance was calculated are extremely low, especially if the loan has been sold multiple times. If they sue you on the loan, it's their burden to prove that you have a valid contract with them and how much you owe. And they often just can't do it because they've been unbelievably sloppy with their records or bought the loan from someone else who was. Lenders rely on consumers just continuing to make payments on faith and not showing up to court to fight it or just confessing a judgment when they get sued. Judges are supposed to make the plaintiff prove their case in any lawsuit, even when the defendant doesn't show up, but they often don't review the cases very carefully when the plaintiff is unopposed. And some judges don't even know that they're required to hold the plaintiff to their proofs and are surprised to find out. Don't intentionally default on loans you can afford to pay and know you owe. But if you fall into default, always hire a lawyer to make the lender prove their case. I've seen people get hundreds of thousands of dollars of student debt wiped away that way, or go from being on the verge of foreclosure to owning their houses outright. And it's not particularly uncommon. Story 12. RealPage is a company with software that allows landlords to share proprietary information with one another. And the goal of it is to slowly raise rents across the board. Think this violates antitrust laws? You're right. There has been an ongoing class action lawsuit against RealPage, also naming the largest landlords who use it as defendants, such as Greystar, Pinnacle, etc. The man who came up with the software used it for the airline industry. The Supreme Court deemed it illegal, so it was shut down, and he used it for the rental industry instead, and has since been getting away with it. This has been going on for 20 plus years, ever since rents began to explode at a rapid rate. This has crippled everything from home ownership to utility prices to food prices, just about everything. If you have to pay more in rent, then you have less money to pay for anything else. This software is exactly why the rent is too damn high. Landlords who use it are a cartel. Story 13. A lot of small-town doctors in my country tell patients that their BP of 160/90 is okay, and that sugars of 250/300 is okay. Because if they tell them that it's not okay, the patient will think that the doctor is saying so because he's a pill pusher, and will do doctor shopping till they find some quack who will agree with the patient that it's okay to have that BP or sugars because it's normal for his or her body. What the hell does that even mean? And when these patients inevitably get complications and end up in one of the hospitals in the cities, they don't agree with us when we tell them to control their parameters better because now they have their family doctors who have fed them lies. So many patients want advice from a senior doctor, but these so-called senior doctors probably commit more mistakes than a fresh pass-out from a good institution. Why? Because they aren't updated, and/or have lost the ability to maintain the level of curiosity required to make good diagnoses, and have gotten swamped by the sheer number of patients they greedily want to see in a day, leading to overlooking minor appearing significant clinical findings or lab parameters. They don't want to work up too much in case they have to refer to a super specialist. Story 14. Servers and kitchen staff don't mess with your food. Worked almost a decade as a server and never once saw it. Why would we? We want you to tell us if something is wrong with your plate. Consider this. If the food comes out wrong and you never tell us, here's what happens. You leave, and when someone else brings up our restaurant, you go, "I tried it, but they messed up my order." If you tell us about it and give us the chance to fix it, that response becomes, "I tried it and at first my order was wrong, but my server fixed it immediately and was really cool about the whole thing." We rely on your tips and business. Why would we want to make you not come back? That said, we're human too, and if you treat us like animals, expect to get treated like an animal back. More and more, the days of the customer being always right are going away. Just treat people with respect. Story 15. I work in a pharmacy, currently a specialty pharmacy with complex, expensive, and uncommon drugs, but I've also worked retail. Medical professionals, i.e. doctors, pharmacists, nurse practitioners, etc., on all levels are just as fallible and human as the rest of them are. I've met some of the dumbest people of my life in this industry, and because they have a very expensive and time-consuming degree, they will be the most confidently incorrect people you have ever met. I've had arguments you wouldn't believe. From very simple math, 4 weeks is 28 days, not 30, to confuse some of the most common medications in the world. I've had a doctor scream at me that prednisone is an antibiotic, not azithromycin. For those of you who know, like, what the hell are you smoking? I've had pharmacists who think the COVID vaccine is a liberal lie to use us as guinea pigs, while giving 40+ vaccines a day. To summarize, they're people, prone to the same biases, errors in judgment, and personality flaws as anyone else. Yes, they are still your best bet when it comes to medical stuff. I'm not anti-doctor or anti-medicine or anything like that. But be discerning. Don't think of them as infallible. Ask them questions. And don't be afraid to shop around if your doctor is a schmuck, because a bad doctor is one of the worst things on this planet. Also, by and large, doctors are pricks. They have a genuinely inflated sense of ego simply because they torture themselves enough to finish medical school. Not all doctors, not all the time, but it is a startling trend. Story 16. Just reading through all of these excellent responses reinforces the fact that what we call civilization is an onion skin thin veneer over the alternative. Chaotic, low-trust everyone else brutality by tooth and claw. A lot of the secrets mentioned are relatively benign in the grand scheme of things, and frankly draw us together with common experiences. Which of course just reinforces the fact that we're all far more alike than any of the superficial differences we have. Just mentioning this, because the rank balkanization that's happening to and among us these past 10 years or so sickens me to the core. Regardless of your camp or tribe, the logical end result of accentuating all of these differences constantly will be brutal. Story 17. In most instances, at businesses and government locations, IT border, firewall, and internal network security is lax, not being updated and not being managed by skilled people who spend time at it. I have seen firewalls at major financial institutions that have scores of NATs and ports open for applications and devices that haven't been used in years. It's common for administrators to get frustrated and/or lazy trying to get applications that they don't understand to work that give everyone administrative access to not only their own devices, but also to the entire network. The devastating ransomware attacks you hear about at major institutions are caused by just that. The tools are there, the procedures are well known. It's that either no one knows how or management does not want to pay someone to spend the time necessary to set it up properly and maintain it. Story 1. I've been with an airline for the better part of 3 years now, and there are definitely a few great things to keep in mind anytime you take a commercial flight. Starting from the minute you get into the airport, customer service agents are the first people that can make or break your trip. Yelling, screaming, getting crabby, lewd, patronizing only makes your trip worse and worse. You see, when you think you're making a point or a difference in these people's lives, you're totally wrong. They retreat to the break room and laugh about it with their coworkers. And they probably didn't go out of their way to get you a better seat. Golden rule, be nice. Simple. Smile, joke around, keep a positive disposition. This seems impossible when shit's hitting the fan in the case of cancellations or delays. But believe me, those agents didn't want those things to happen either. They can and will work their magic if you give them the opportunity to do it. There are ways to get you a window or aisle seat even if there are only middle seats showing. Believe me, a coffee goes a very long way at the gate as well if you're traveling with an airline that's known to upgrade. Once you're on board, those flight attendants are not only gorgeous, funny, and smart, but they're also highly trained professionals that can and will put their own lives at risk for a perfect stranger should the situation arise. Not many people appreciate that fact. So again, be nice. Someone else on this topic I've talked to also noticed one of the trade secrets: chocolates. I flew with an airline transatlantic in August, in economy. I approached the lead flight attendant, the one that greets you as you board, and introduced myself and thanked them for having me on board, exchanged pleasantries, and handed him a mini 4-pack of maple syrup. Can you guess which country I was leaving from? Sat down for about 5 minutes in my coach seat before he came by and said he was sorry, but my seat assignment was unfortunately changed. I spent the next 7 hours in a lay-flat bed with all the gray goose I could handle. Now, this grant was a standby flight, but regular travelers can also get this treatment. I've seen it. In the flight deck, this place is just hilarious. I have flown in the jump seat on a handful of occasions, and I never pass up the opportunity. Between the gadgets, knobs, dials, and especially the view, this is the one place that would cure every nervous flyer. Everything that goes into making a plane and keeping it in the air is mind-boggling, and the two pilots up front know exactly what they're doing. It's like a work of art, seeing them bring this thing up and down. But that's where it ends. Under 10,000 feet is where the magic happens. Above 10,000 feet, it's a lot of banter involving ex-wives, summer houses, bill payments, and catching up on 2 to 3 day old newspapers that have probably been read 9 or 10 times. One time, the sun was shining into my eyes in the jump seats, and they took out their stack of safety cards and covered the entire windshield, kicked their feet up, and enjoyed the ride. When I jokingly blurted out, "You can't see the road," they pointed to the instruments and just said, "It's right there." As the old airline adage goes, what separates perverts from alcoholics? The cockpit door. Story 2. Women, if you pack a toy in your bag, take the batteries out. Because if I'm loading your bag and I hear it vibrating, I have to tell my lead. Then my lead has to come pull you off the aircraft, and you have to open your bag and turn off your toy in front of a bunch of giggling grown men. It used to be that you had to open the bag in the presence of the passenger, at least for the regional airline I worked for. The first time it happened to me, I was a bit titillated, having heard stories from my coworkers. I got the name off of the bag tag, went into the gate area, and found her. A very large woman in her mid-50s, by my guess. Her face paled when I quietly explained that her bag was vibrating and that I would have to open it to resolve any security concerns, and would she please accompany me to the ramp area to witness. She asked if she could just open the bag herself and take care of it, and I had to inform her that no, she was not allowed to touch her bag until she reached her final destination. She reluctantly agreed and followed me outside. I opened her bag. She was in front of the wing. I was behind it in view of her, and lifted the top layer of clothes to find the most elaborate dildo my young eyes have ever beheld, the kind with little extra arms for anal or clitoral stimulation. I was able to maintain my professionalism long enough to remove the batteries, verify that the vibration had ceased, close the bag, and thank the lady, but my asshole brain tormented me with a richly detailed mental picture of that passenger going to town on that for weeks afterward. The few times I had a vibrating bag after that, I silently prayed for an electric toothbrush. Story 3. When you experience a hard landing in bad weather, it wasn't because of a lack of pilot skills, but it is in fact intentional. If the runway is covered in water, the airplane has to touch down hard in order to puncture the water layer and prevent aquaplaning. Mobile electronic devices won't really bring an airplane down, but they can really be annoying to pilots. Just imagine sitting in the flight deck, descending to your destination, and hearing the interference of 100 plus cell phones picking up a signal. I have missed a clearance or two that way. The air you breathe on an airplane is actually compressed air taken from the engines. A large portion, 25 to 50%, is blown in the flight deck. The rest is for the passengers. The air leaves the airplane via a small hole in the back of the fuselage. The captain has almost limitless authority when the doors are closed. He is allowed to arrest people, write fines, and even take the will of a passenger. At most airlines, the only difference between the captain and the co-pilot is their rank. They divide the workload fairly and switch the roles of pilot flying and pilot non-flying each flight. Story 4. I was a ramp agent for Delta. A lot of freight gets shipped on commercial flights. One of these items was always called HR on the radios. HR was an abbreviation for human remains. Some people die far away from where they want to get buried. They're packed in wood-framed boxes, so you would never know what was inside except by the strange shape of them. They were a bitch to handle. People weigh a bit. Add a casket and shipping container, and you're looking at anywhere from 250 to 400 pounds. Also, the bin doors tend to be pretty narrow. Wrestling these things out of the plane was always a giant pain in the ass. HR in the middle bin of a Mad Dog MD-90. That. TLDR. If you hear about an HR while flying Delta, it means there's a dead body in cargo. But what if the plane went down? Sir, there are 92 people on board when the plane took off, but there were 93 bodies. It was a wrist. Then they proceed to shut down every airport within 6,000 miles. Story 5. Some airlines don't pay pilots or flight attendants for flights that cancel, which doesn't sound so bad until you start thinking about the safety implications of it. A little short on the rent this month? Then I don't see that hydraulic leak. I can't afford to have the flight canceled. Child need to see the doctor? Maybe I don't report the torn up carpet that you might trip on in an evacuation because carpet takes too long to replace, so the flight would cancel. Not saying this happens all the time because most crews are true professionals and can put their job ahead of their paycheck, but it does happen enough to give you goosebumps. Throw in some seriously low pay, sub $20,000 a year for many first-year pilots, and you've got a subtle incentive to overlook safety issues. Story 6. I have a friend who's a commercial pilot. Around 5 years ago, he was doing a flight from LA to Tokyo when an anonymous caller phoned in a threat while they were over the middle of the Pacific. Apparently, they have procedures for this kind of thing, but there was nothing anyone could do in this situation except stay calm and not alert the passengers, obviously. He said for the rest of the flight, every bump of turbulence made his adrenaline spike. They took this case especially seriously because there was a group of foreign dignitaries sitting in the first-class cabin. In situations like this, they radio back and everyone on board gets their name cross-checked for links to and prior convictions. It comes back as a high level, medium, or no threat. Story 7. Passenger weighing in. If you have a musical instrument, never check it. Take it to the gate with you. If they don't have room on the plane, they can gate check it and put it on last. When you deboard on your next stop, it will be waiting for you as soon as you exit the plane. A note. I've heard from baggage handlers and flight attendants that they do not appreciate musicians doing this. As I already said, if there isn't room on the plane, then I'll gate check it. This ensures that it goes on last and is taken off first, then none left at the ramp for you to pick up immediately after deboarding the plane. I'm sorry if this is an inconvenience for people in the industry, but all my were given when I lost my deployment gift to careless handlers and was not refunded the total amount to get a new one. You can move your over in the closet so I can protect my $1,500 baby. P.S. I have never had a bad experience doing this. Every flight attendant I've done this with has been more than accommodating. Story 8. Aluminum, unlike steel, doesn't have a lower stress limit for fatigue cracking. In layman's terms, this means that whenever you apply load to it, it cracks. Planes are designed so that under normal loads, the cracks are microscopic, but they will always be there and they grow with repeated stress cycles. I.e., every time the plane is flown, the cracks grow. Maintenance crews are responsible for knowing where they are on each individual plane and tracking their growth. Source is my mechanical engineering professor from my college days. Story 9. Will probably get buried that I am an aircraft fueler. One thing I cannot stress enough is how your pets are treated. While your airline will take the best possible actions, some things cannot be avoided, like the noise on the ramp. I cannot stand out there without ear protection, and imagine your pet sitting out there on the ramp waiting to be loaded onto the plane being exposed to the same amount of noise I am. Please, people, think twice before flying your pets. I'll add some facts. I've heard from someone in the domain. Flying with pets is sometimes unavoidable. I am in no way saying that flying your pet makes you a owner. Just bear in mind the conditions that they will be experiencing. They might need some extra cuddles when they get back. A lot of baggage handlers I have seen are really good about pets, but not everything. The people that are moving your pets onto the plane are not very well paid, at least what they deserve. Every airline is different. Check with your airline and see what their pet policy is, and ask about any VIP or in-cabin options. While not the best, it may be more comfortable for your pet. The people who I have seen that look after your pet before they are loaded onto the plane are really great guys and love what they do. Again, results may vary from airport to airport. Story 10. On some 747s, Air France and possibly others, the upper deck economy class seats have a little extra room and storage on the window seats. They have a tiny bit more legroom too. Air France used to block these off for picking seats ahead of time unless you have a higher tier card. If you check in a bit early, you can get them. It's probably been mentioned, but SeatGuru.com is the resource for checking seats for whatever steel you're flying on. Story 11. I am a commercial aircraft fueler. At my airport, we get a lot of small jets. CRJ 200, 700, 900, ERJ 145, 737s, MD 88, 95, DC 9. One of the main things as a fueler is having to overwing a plane. We do that when the single point on the plane is an op and have to pump 600 to 1,000 gallons of jet into the plane. This is when you see us, one on each side, take a small fuel pump, usually the ones you put in your car, and balance out the fuel on each side. It's a long process, usually 2 gallons a second. Fueling is labor intensive, but nowhere near as bad as the ramp agents. I also was a ramp agent for United, and most any ramp agents will tell you, do not buy expensive luggage. When your bag weighs 30 to 40 pounds and I have 50 to 100 bags coming to me at once, I can't treat yours with the love and care that you would like. They usually want small jets out in 20 minutes. This includes scanning bags, downloading, dropping off, scanning new bags for departure, and loading and pushing back. Another tidbit, if you are pushed back and sitting there, it's because either your wheels got pushed back or you're delayed. Pilots do not get paid when brakes are set. They get paid pilot pay when the brakes are released. You can only be pushed away and sit there waiting to leave for 2 hours. After that, you return to the gate, and this way you can take care of business. Your flight will get delayed or canceled if your coffee pot is broken or an op. Planes break. It sucks, but respect it. The airlines care very much about safety. They will ground your plane for the smallest issue. I have seen a plane canceled because the lave was clogged. But at the end of the day, you should be thankful. Story 12. Flight attendant. Pilots do not fix the plane. They fly it. If it's major, they call maintenance. Stop asking the pilots to just fix the plane. Sometimes it takes a while. I'm sorry. It sucks. Deal with it. My day is long. So damn long. Please be nice. I see hundreds of people in a day. If I'm abrupt with you in any way, I apologize. I'm trying to 1. Expedite the boarding process so we can leave on time. 2. I'm running on very little sleep and I'm cranky. 3. I've dealt with too many assholes and/or delays that day, and my spirit is utterly crushed. You'll rarely see me upset, but many other flight attendants are bitches. I'm sorry, they don't love their job like I do. We only get paid when the main cabin door is closed. I make less than $20K a year. This is common. I know that you know how to put on a seatbelt. I still have to do a safety demo. It's a liability issue. Do not treat me like a waitress. I'm not. I get paid less, and my hours are longer, and the job involves much more than serving you a drink and some peanuts. I personally don't care if you use your electronic devices. However, don't be talking on your phone during taxi. If I can't see your phone, I don't care if you're playing Angry Birds. We're not going to crash. Many airlines have changed their rules, but mine has not, and I have to enforce the rules. People vent their frustrations about flying to me. It's hard being at knowing you caused none of the problems. Believe me, it's in our best interest to keep you happy. Why would we want otherwise? The FAA makes the rules, not your flight crew. We are just the crew. Every decision comes from above. Remember that. Be nice. Story 13. Not so much a secret, but something worth knowing about. TSA pre-check. You get to bypass pretty much everyone. Leave your shoes on, your laptop in your bag, and don't have to take out your small liquid containers. To get TSA pre-check, you need to be recommended to the TSA by an airline, meaning you need to be a very frequent flyer. Or you can apply for global entry, which makes getting through customs a breeze. It costs $100 to apply, and you have to fill out paperwork and go through an interview process. Some credit cards will pay the fee, like American Express Platinum. Addition. Okay, if you are a frequent flyer, you might as well get an American Express Platinum card. It's $450 a year, which sounds expensive, but the previously mentioned $100 global entry fee is waived. You get $200 in airline fee credit. Baggage fees, upgrade points, or a number of any other random fee is automatically deducted. You get into U.S. Airways clubs, Admirals lounges, Delta lounges. Your immediate family or 2 guests can come too. You get a free priority pass, which lets you into tons of lounges around the world. You can get a free companion ticket if you buy an international first business class. And those are just some of the travel perks. This might not appeal to everyone, but I'm sure there are some other frequent flyers out there who wouldn't mind paying $450 for global entry, $200 in airline charges, lounge access, and companion tickets. Another addition. Apparently, the American Express lounges are now free to Platinum and Black Card members. These lounges have free spas and food. I hear the drinks are free too, but I don't know for sure. There is one in Terminal D of DFW that just opened, and one in the Las Vegas airport. If you have a Platinum or Black Card, you should check them out instead of going to the regular airline lounges. Story 14. I used to be an operations control center manager for a regional airline, about 900 flights a day. Ultimately, I was the guy that decided if your flight was going to be canceled. Most people don't know I exist. When passengers hear cancel due to ATC or WX or MX, it's really just a small team of people deciding if your flight is going to make it, and often it's not even your plane or flight that has the problem. In the case of ATC and weather, we will be allowed X number of arrivals an hour. We decide which ones are going and which ones will stay or reposition to another city. Passengers are usually one of the last items of consideration. Safety is always first. We won't send it if there is reason to believe it's unsafe, and if we can blame it on weather, we will. It's much cheaper for the airline if it's blamed on WX, since they don't have as many benefits for the customer. Food vouchers, hotels, etc. Next most important is which crews will time out, and how critical it is that they get to their next stop. The way crews are routed, we often have to cancel something today to save 3 flights that would need to be canceled tomorrow if the AC and crew don't get to the right place by the right time. Next is where the AC is routed, since they are often carrying MX items that expire at a certain date and can only be fixed in specific bases. After that is cargo and bags. Bags cost a lot more to get rerouted than passengers. The reason for this is that passengers can go on the next plane, but if their bags don't make it, we deliver them to you, not the airport that you are going to. Couriers can get expensive quickly, so it's better business to have your bags waiting for you rather than the other way around, even if that means kicking you off the plane and taking your bags. Last is passengers, sometimes based on a priority list of VIPs and sometimes based on doing the most good for the largest number of people. Ultimately, regional airlines only have one customer, the major airline they serve. They are paid based on a number of metrics to summarize their performance, and there are tiers for penalty and bonus. The airline knows exactly, to the minute, where they are in relation to these goals, and we will often sacrifice one for the other. Example, if we are near a penalty for on-time departures within 0 minutes of scheduled departure time, but have a good cushion on completion factor, we will cancel a flight just to make one go on time. TLDR, I got a D in ethics, but I'm really good at math.